how to find the self. Of course, the concept that you need to travel off to Alaska or the mountains to find yourself is a false concept. It's not where you're going to find anything. Trust me, I've traveled all over the world and I was always there. But but that's because I went there. That's why I was there. Those with CPTSD and sometimes borderline personality disorder literally feel like they don't know who they are. And it's not that they don't know their name or the family they came from, but they just feel like they don't know who they are beyond um, beyond that, beyond the basic superficial aspects. And so, in the split from the trauma, the initial trauma that occurred, which was not just one thing for complex trauma, it was growing up in an environment where you were not validated. It was growing up in an environment where you were not safe to be yourself. Growing up in an environment where you were not celebrated for being different. You were not celebrated for telling the truth. Growing up in an environment where you were punished, maybe harshly, for speaking up, being yourself, being different, pointing out something that was wrong about your parents, not agreeing in some way with your parents. All of those things in your household growing up may have been met with very harsh responses and punishments. You may have been judged, you may have been nitpicked. So if you have parents that are judging and nitpicking you, it's almost like you can't do anything right. If you do your hair a certain way, your mother is on top of that. If you don't do your hair a certain way, your mother is on top of that. If you're dressed down, your father's talking about it. If you're dressed up, your father's talking about it. It gives you a feeling like you don't know where to go or what to do. And so what happens with many trauma survivors, they start to bend over backwards and they start fawning, trying to desperately to get that validation, that praise, that love, to just be in with their parents, to just be okay, to just be accepted. And so they feel like they've lost themselves because there is no self. It's just survive. It's just try my very best to make mom feel okay with me, to stop dad from saying something mean or getting angry, to manage the emotions and the feelings of my parents. Just do anything possible to avoid having to get scolded, to get beat, hit, abused, used, and the list goes on. So it's no wonder you might feel a little bit like unstable in your identity, who you are. You feel like you're questioning everything. You don't feel like you know yourself. You feel like you have ideas sometimes of what you would like to be, but time after time, again, you try something and you lose momentum. You can't ever get anything done. You can't ever achieve any goals. So you just start feeling like nowhere I go, nothing I do is going to work. And then you fall into learned helplessness, which makes you feel like, forget it. There is no way I can win. And then it's like, why try? Because there's no way that I can actually get the love, get the validation, be accepted. It's a sad picture, right? So now that you're an adult and you're no longer inside of that household with those narcissistic parents, those emotionally immature caregivers, how do we do this? How do we fix this so that we know who we are, so that we've found ourselves, so that we know ourselves? How do we find the self that was lost? Well, many healers say, hey, you got to go back to your childhood. That's when it was lost. You got to get back to who you were when you were your authentic self. And they couldn't be more wrong. It's just totally wrong. I'm so sorry that somebody told you that. A big one on the authentic self is Gabor Mate. He's a really popular healer. He has a lot of great advice, but unfortunately, he just keeps missing the mark on this one. And he keeps telling everyone that there's an authentic self, and he's got the really nice accent, right? And he brings you in. He's like, your authentic self is inside, and you just need to listen to that voice that's inside of you. And you're like, yeah, that sounds right. But then, as a trauma survivor, when his video is off and you're searching inside of yourself, you can't find the self because despite how good it sounds that there's just something inside of you that you just need to listen to, you still can't find the thing that you need to listen to because all there is confusion and questioning and insecurity inside. You've learned in your life to just be a chameleon, to just blend in. So when you're looking for just you, that solid post that you can cling to, it's not there. So that advice is not helping. It's not going to work. So how do we actually find the self? Well, that's what I'm going to help you with right now. How do you actually find the self? Because no, it's not already necessarily inside of you. No, it's not necessarily in your childhood. To find the self, you need to stop looking, stop searching, because it's not out there. It's not in India. It's not somewhere outside of you. It's not in another person. It's not inside of you. The self is not already in there. That's why if it was there, you would just find it, right? It's like, if I had it, then I wouldn't be searching for it. So what do we do if we don't need to find the self? That's right. We need to create the self. We need to create the self. The self is actually something that you make. It's something that you build. So when you're looking at all these other humans who seem very self-actualized, like they know who they are, they're so confident, they stand in their own space, they don't seem to like bend and worry about what other people, what it is that they did. And maybe they're not even conscious of what they did to be able to explain it to you as I am here. But what it is that they created the self. They had to build it. And they probably started in childhood. That's why they don't remember doing it. But you couldn't start in childhood because you were raised in the complex trauma house. It was a little rough at times, if we're to be honest, at least at the very least emotionally. So that's why you weren't focused on building the self because you were trying to survive. That would have been nice. Wouldn't it have? You could have been that kid who was exploring your gifts and your talents and your abilities and dreaming and acting and trying different things. And by this time, you would have already been able to run through so many iterations that you would know exactly who you are. You would have already created the self. You didn't have the chance, but it's okay because you can do it now. It's okay. The craziest thing about the fact that even though you feel like you're behind is you can catch up to everyone else. You can catch up to where you would be if you hadn't have grown up in that household. You can make up for that lost time and you can do it right here, right now. You can create the self. And I'm going to go through a little bit with you as time will allow as to how you do that right now. How do we create the self? How do you build the self? Well, first, stop searching. It's not about finding. Understand it's about building. It's about creating. You're going to create the self out of your choices and your decisions. You create the self out of your choices, your decisions. So you actually get to choose who you will be, what you will be. You get to choose, which is great news because now you get to be someone that you actually like. You don't just have to be doomed to being a person you don't like. That's great news, isn't it? I think so. I would rather be able to choose who I'm going to be. In fact, the man you see sitting in front of you right now is the man I chose to be. This is all a choice. This is an aberration of my imagination. I actually visualized all of this. I visualized this guy. And then I worked towards it. I said, oh, you know what would be really good? It would be really good if I could work with trauma survivors, right? I had that idea. I knew I wanted to do coaching and counseling. I knew I wanted to do something that was very deep. I knew I wanted to work with mental illness. Made those decisions. I knew how I wanted to speak. I knew how I wanted to use and navigate the English language. I knew that I wanted to be on Zoom and the internet speaking to crowds of 100 people, which is exactly how many people are here right now. I knew I wanted to grow this beard. I knew I wanted to buy these glasses. I knew I wanted to buy this shirt. It's all choices. It's choices. The man you're looking at, you go, oh, this guy is the guy that a former version of me visualized, came up with this idea, right down to the health, the physical health, and how I care for myself, and the mental health and the spiritual health. It's all choices, it's all decisions. So you build the self by making decisions. So let's start right now with you. No matter where you are, if you're a person who feels like you know yourself, you can still do the exercise. You know why? Because we are always evolving, we are always growing. So a person, even who knows themselves, who knows who they are, they understand that they are a fluid concept. You are a fluid concept, ma'am, sir. You are a work in progress. You're molding and shaping and refining all the time. And that's okay. We want to hold on to the stuff we like, and we want to shed the parts that we could improve on. And so let's do that exercise right now. What I want you to do is write down a list of a few of the qualities that you have that you would like to keep, things about yourself that you like, that you don't want to lose. Go ahead and make a list right now, maybe like 3 to 5 things that you like about yourself that you prefer not to lose. Because as you're building the self, we want to make sure we don't lose the good parts, right? We want to hold on to just the parts we want and let go of the parts we don't want. So go ahead and make your list of the parts that you want to keep. I'm putting on my list creativity, wisdom, humor. These are things I like about myself. Good. Now, what we want to do is we want to jot down 2 things that we would like to change. You can put 1 or 2 things max, things that you would like to lose about yourself or you'd like to improve on. 1 or 2 things that you would like to lose about yourself or you'd like to improve on about yourself. What do you got on your list? So I got to get better at paperwork, staying on top of the paperwork, the organizing, the getting the done, especially when I have to mail something. Terrible at that. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use visualization to make the change. So first, look down at what it is you want to change. Take that first thing. So I want to get better at paperwork or to improve my posture or my vocabulary. And I want you to make a decision on this. So we're going to take it out of the realm of the I want, and we're going to bring it into the realm of the I will. We're going to bring it out of the realm of the I would like to be. We're going to bring it into the realm of the I am. So that what we're doing is energetically, we're going there first. We're going to allow the physical to follow. So mentally, we're going to go there now. Make a decision and say, I am this. From now on, I am. I wasn't before. When I got here, I wasn't this. So I wasn't good at mailing stuff and doing paperwork before. But now I am and I will be. Make the decision. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Make the decision. From now on, I am and I will be. You got your decision made? Go ahead and say that. Say it out loud. From now on, I am and I will be. Good. Very powerful. You're already partway there. Now we need to visualize. So just close your eyes and picture yourself with all your good qualities intact, but also with this additional quality, and picture how you would integrate that in your already existing personality. So you have all of your good parts, but now you have this new additional improvement. So it's like a 2.0 version of yourself. Picture that. Picture yourself doing it, how you would handle it. What do you see? What is she doing differently? She's just slightly different. She's you, but she's just a little bit better in this area. What is she doing differently? Like I picture myself uh, using the calendar and using lists to make sure I'm not missing that paperwork. You see yourself doing it? And now bring in the decision. That is me. That's who I am now. From now on, that is me. After you've made the decision on who you want to be, now you only need to put the decision into action. In other words, to work in harmony with that choice. That's it. That's the other half of the game. Once you've made a decision on who you want to be, who you are, now you just have to show up and work towards that. Because who you are will always be a work in progress. It will always be something that you're striving towards. And as you accomplish the benchmarks of being that ideal version of yourself, of being that person, other people will start to take note and they will start to describe you as that person. Do you know? I just thought of something. I used to be the guy that was unreliable. Did you guys know that? I missed the dress rehearsal for my school play, and I didn't even like tell anyone. Like I didn't call, and I was pretty old. I was like junior, senior in high school. I didn't call anyone to tell them I wasn't coming. I just didn't show up. That was me. I was that guy who would just not show. Um, but I've changed that because I'm here every Monday and Wednesday, aren't I? And I don't miss, except for that one time when I was sleeping in Nepal, which is on the other side of the world. So it was like 4 in the morning there. Forgive me for that one time. That's over a year ago. But no, honestly, outside of that one time, I never miss Monday and Wednesday. But I used to be the guy who was unreliable. What did I do? I changed it. It's a choice. I made a decision. I said, I have to learn to be a more reliable person. And so I learned to be more reliable so that I could show up for the people in my life that were relying on me. And that allowed me to have privileges. It allowed me to be a husband. It allowed me to progress at work and to have additional responsibility and to be trusted. So I thought of that because I'm sitting here right now, and this is a new version of me. Over these last few years, this person isn't who I used to be. So going back into your past and your childhood is not where you're going to find your authentic self. The authentic self is who you choose to be when you work in accordance with that. So you have to make sure the work is there. Okay? The work's got to be there. What's included in this work is advocating for the self. This is very important. There was a woman who went to her psychologist, I believe he was. It was her therapist. I don't remember his specific title, but she went to her therapist and said, "I feel like I don't know who I am." And after having some conversations, the therapist recommended that she go to her mother and tell her mother the truth about how she felt on going to the college that her mother wanted her to go to. You see, because what was happening in her life at the time was her mother wanted her to go to the college that the mother graduated from, but the daughter wanted to go to a different school. But she had chosen just, okay, let me make my mom happy. She wasn't feeling very good about that. So when she went and she let her mom down, she disappointed her mom. Mom, I'm sorry, I've been trying to do this to make you happy, but I really want to go here. And that's my decision. When she did that, she came back to therapy the next week. And he said, well, congratulations for doing that. Let's work on this loss of self, this feeling like you don't know who you are. And she said, oh, I don't have that anymore. Wait, what? Yeah, I don't have that feeling like I don't know who I am anymore. Ever since I spoke up to my mom and disappointed her, I feel like I know myself. That's where the authentic self is, folks. It's on the other side of assertiveness. Your authentic self is on the other side of assertiveness. So when you choose, when you make a decision for what you want, what you would like to be, and then you act in according to that decision, in alignment with that vision, you are being the authentic self because you're being true to who you are, because you are who you want to be. You are who you want to be. When you speak up, when you advocate for yourself to the disappointment of the other people, you will know who you are. It's right there. You're going to have to disappoint some folks. But when you do, you'll know who you are. You will have cured your loss of self. When you disappoint them in favor of what you want, that is the authentic self. So let's get on the phone this week and let's start disappointing some people. Hey, I'm so sorry. Baseball's not really my thing. Oh, yeah. You know how we were going to go to that play? I hate plays. I'm not, I'm not coming to the play. I don't want to do that. Hey, you remember I said that I was going to cook for our upcoming gathering? I'm going to buy something from a store because I hate cooking. Hey, you remember how we said we're going to go out to the restaurant? I would rather you guys come over to my house because I love cooking. I love entertaining. When you start disappointing people around you and you start regarding what you want as equal in importance to what they want, but your priority to advocate for, you will find yourself. That is where you are. Is it that simple? It is. It is. Perhaps you're feeling more like yourself already, just thinking about this. You build it. The self is made up of the values. So it's the things that you find to be important. It could be material things, can be your video games, your car, your house. It can be people in your life. It can be your dogs, your cats. It can be ideas like loyalty, justice. Anything that you value is a part of the self. Okay? So that's who you are. You can choose your values. Is that clear? You can choose your values. You don't need to just allow what someone else said. Oh, because my mom said that family is everything, then that's my value. No, you choose your values. You decide. You decide what your values are. Does that make sense? So one woman said, well, I can't just choose because I tried that and I wanted to choose to be a teacher and then I tried it and I didn't like it. And so it didn't work out. So you can't choose what you like and what you love. Is that correct? Is she correct in that? You can't choose what you like and what you love? That would be a no. We can choose what we like and what we love. This is very important. We choose what we like and what we love. We can choose it. You may have had some things that you felt like you naturally liked. Okay, cool. But you can choose your likes and you can choose your love. I learned that when I was 5 because my grandmother taught me. Because I was sitting at the table and she put the plate with the vegetables and the stew. It was like a vegetable meat stew, but served on top of rice. And then I was probably just picking at the meat on the plate. And then she was like, eat your vegetables. And I was like, I don't like vegetables because I was 5 and I authentically didn't like vegetables. And she said, the reason you don't like vegetables is because when you eat them, you tell yourself, ew, I don't like vegetables. It's because of the way you're thinking. Instead, you need to say, I like these vegetables. I like vegetables. They're so delicious when you eat them. And then you'll like vegetables. And I thought, how profound this woman is. I didn't have that vocabulary at 5, but I did feel like what she was giving me would give me a very essential life skill. Because one of my big problems in life at 5 years old was these vegetables were everywhere. I couldn't go anywhere without somebody wanting me to eat these vegetables. And so if I could just learn to like the vegetables, then I wouldn't have to suffer so much. And so I stabbed some vegetables on my fork and I brought them up to my mouth. I put them in my mouth and I said, Mmm, these are delicious. And I ate the disgusting vegetables. And I thought, these are gross, but something really profound happened in my brain. When I said, these are delicious, a little window opened up that said, actually, they're not that bad. I started to notice what was good about them. Besides the fact that they're nutritious and everywhere, I started to notice that there was flavor to the vegetables naturally, and the seasoning that my grandmother, who was a great cook, put on these vegetables, there was something good there. So even though I was still almost gagging while I was eating them, I found something good there and I did it again. I like vegetables, and I did it again. And I can tell you, I grew then from that point to be a person who could eat vegetables. I was no longer afraid of them. She had empowered me in that moment. I learned a life skill. Now I didn't have to go around cowering and telling people, well, I don't eat vegetables. Well, I don't eat vegetables. It was an essential part of growing up. And I low key judged the other kids when I would get to be about 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We'd be in high school and there's kids, I don't like vegetables. I was like, well, that's not very sophisticated. And I was able to mature to that point because of what I learned. You can choose what you like. It was in my best interest to choose to like vegetables. And so when I made that choice to tell myself I like them, I was able to start to tolerate them and eat them. And now I'm not afraid of vegetables. I can eat vegetables. I probably still don't love them naturally, but they're an essential part of life. But this is not about the vegetables. Do you get the point of the story? You choose what you like in life. So if it's to your benefit to like your job, you can choose to like it. If it's to your benefit to like your house, your clothing, to appreciate, to be in gratitude of, you can choose to like them. If it's to your benefit to choose to love your wife, you can choose to love her. We get to choose. We get to decide what we love and what we like. So, yes, you can build yourself. In the example she gave about being a teacher, this woman said, I went to be a teacher, but then I didn't like it. And then so I let, well, you chose not to be a teacher. That's not choosing to be a teacher. That's trying something out and then choosing not to do it because there's something you didn't like about it. That's perfectly fine. But please understand that's very different than making a decision and sticking with it. It's perfectly fine for us to explore. In fact, I encourage it. Try things out. If you don't like them, you can walk away. But you can choose if there is something that you feel it's in your best interest to get good at, to like, to love, to develop, to value. You get to choose all of that. And so make decisions, make choices that are going to be beneficial for the self.